What's up everybody, Trinity here, and welcome back to the Second Street Marvel. In today's video, I am going to be doing, once again, a double feature comic book review. Now the two titles I am going to be talking about today, I received advanced copies of from one of the writers of these particular series, and that writer is Michael Morecki. I just happened to see a tweet from him over there on Twitter, and got these advanced copies to bring you guys some comic book reviews. Now these comic books are going to be releasing at your local comic book shops this Wednesday, and these two series that I'm going to be talking about today are some series that I have absolutely loved, both coming out of Vault Comics. And the first one I'm going to be talking about is The Plot, issue number 3, and the second one I'm going to be talking about is Mall, issue number 4. Okay, so right off the bat, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to get here into The Plot. Now, I have done reviews on all of these books so far, but I have done reviews of The Plot, and there will probably be some video cards showing right up there or something. Now, this is issue number 1, and this is issue number 2. Again, if you haven't watched those reviews, I'd suggest you do so if you haven't been keeping up with this series. But basically, The Plot, let me go ahead and tell you who the creators are here. First off, The Plot is written by Tim Daniel and Michael Morecki, or it could be Morrissey. I could be pronouncing that wrong. I'm sure I am. It's drawn by Joshua Hickson, colored by Jordan Boyd, and lettered by the hardworking Jim Campbell. And I'm going to go ahead and show you those names right here on the inside of the book, and you can kind of see there on that opening title page of issue number 1 some of the art that you can kind of expect in this book. So what we've learned so far up until issue number 3 is that there was this pharmaceutical company CEO. He had just announced plans of a new drug that was getting ready to launch that was going to help a lot of people. But then him and his wife were brutally murdered, and then they had a couple of kids. They ended up having to go back home to Cape Augusta. I want to say that's Connecticut. Could have been Massachusetts, but I'm pretty sure it's Connecticut. To stay with their uncle Chase, and with their uncle Chase Blaine, as a matter of fact. Cape Augusta, Maine. I was wrong. It's right there on the very beginning of the first issue here. So these two kids, who would basically, they had lost their parents, and so they went to live with their uncle Chase. And, back on this old house that their family had owned for years and years through generations and generations. And it was kind of a little odd for them at first. They hadn't ever really met their Uncle Chase before, and he's, hasn't been typically a responsible guy or anything. So he shows up, to take care of these kids, and they return home to the old family home where they, kind of get to know each other a little better. We get introduced to a few characters. We get introduced to Reese, who is a teacher in the town, and this is a small town, and she also happens to be just a close family friend of the Blaines. And we also get introduced to the local sheriff in town, who does not really want to have anything to do with any of the Blaines. As a matter of fact, he wants Chase and his family gone and out of the town, and that's pretty much what we get where issue number 3 picks up. Now issue number 2 ended up where Chase was actually doing had a water leak in his house down in the basement, and he had to go he went down there to just kind of investigate, and he broke open this wall and found a dead body. And that's where issue number 3 picks up, where we find that the police are there and are investigating the crime scene and everything. As we're guessing a crime is here. There's been a murder, right? So they're there checking everything out, and we see that Chase has actually left the house to go out and just kind of unwind. Things have been really tense in his life, with the passing of his brother and just kind of what's going on here with their family altogether. So the kids, his niece and his nephew, are staying there at the house with their friend Reese, who is again one of the teachers there at the local school. And we see that the police is asking like, hey, where's he at? And she's like, hey, Chase is out. He's out just kind of unwinding. And we see then we see he's in a bar hanging out and kind of getting into some trouble. And he ended up getting into a fight with a group of guys after one of the guys made some disparaging remarks about his brother's children, who he is basically now the parental guardian of. And he ends up getting getting into a fight, and ends up getting the police show up, and this is again the cop that there in town, the local sheriff that doesn't like him, ends up taking him into custody and kind of helping him out of this jam, I guess you could say. And he's returning him. He's not taking him into jail. He's just actually, it looks like he's just taking him home. And kind of in the car along the way, he's telling him, like, look, man, I don't want, I don't like you. I don't want you here. You need to get out of town. Just sell the house. Do whatever you got to do. Destroy it. Whatever. Just leave. And through this whole time, we see the course of this night. We also see that the kids are at home with Reese while she's there. She ends up waking up in the middle of the night as a mysterious figure ends up plopping up outside of their house. And then she goes down to the basement to kind of investigate. She gets these tapes that one of these dead spirits, dead people there at the house had given her. And but it didn't go unnoticed, as his Chase's nephew or niece, actually, rather, had noticed her go downstairs during the middle of the night and get these tapes. And then flash forward to the next day in school, where Chase's nephew is actually there in school, and he has to go to the bathroom. He leaves class, he goes to the restroom, and ends up getting into some trouble with some kids who are kind of making fun of him. He's a quiet kid, he has issues as well. So he ends up going to the bathroom, and just like a really freakish, horrific scene ends up happening as some frogs started hopping out of his toilet. Just all kinds of crazy stuff here. This is a horror tale. And so, then naturally Chase ends up showing up to, take care of him and find out what's going on. And that's when a lot of different things come to light. And by the end of the book, we see that they got a hold of these audio tapes that had been given to Reese, and they go ahead and listen to him, and it has a message that none of them really wanted to hear. Is something kind of, it all kind of freaked them out, and it's just kind of some things that have really gone on through the history of this whole family, from something that's gone on through their whole family lineage, as it seems like the Blaines have been cursed. And guys, I'm telling you, I've loved the plot. Issue number 1 and 2. Issue number 3 is getting ready to hit your local comic book shop this week. I think issue number 3 is definitely one that takes this series a step further and maybe closer to that conclusion. Guys, I really liked it. I like this book. I like the art in this book. I'm not really into horror stuff, but man, I'm telling you, Vault Comics has really been getting me with some of their titles, and I think the plot, issue number 3, is one that you should definitely make sure that you check out this Wednesday at your local comic book shop. Now, the second one I'm going to be talking about here is Mall, issue number 4. Now, I actually happen to have issue number 1, 2, and 3 of the Mall as well, and I have also done some comic book reviews of those here on this channel, and you could probably find those in a card up here as well. And now, I did fail and neglect to get my review for issue number 3 uploaded, and I may still do that here in the future, but basically what we got here in Mall is it takes place in a post-apocalyptic future in which a bunch of people have holed themselves up in a mall. And it's all really just kind of like gang territory at this point, as all the factions are divided, and they're now always basically constantly stuck in these wars over goods and food and things like that. Now, Mall is written by Michael Morecki and Gary Dalberman. It's drawn by Zach Hartong, colored by Addison Duke, and lettered once again by the hardworking Jim Campbell. And I will show you the inside of the cover there. And this is from the beginning of issue number 1. So like I said, what we see in this book is all these people are holed up. Is what we first open up on, we find out is we first see that there's a young lady who has a kid who's running from some masked people, and they end up hurting her and taking her kid. And then we flash forward some years later into this mall, as we see there are a bunch of warring factions, just things going on here in this mall. Like I said, it's like a gang territory. I mean, think of Mallrats meets The Warriors or Clockwork Orange, something similar to that. And so we see what we kind of open up on is they're basically now at war because what happened is one of the main characters here, Andre, who is he's basically heir to the throne of one of these gangs that these territories that his father owns, and he has been framed and set up for a murder of one of the other heads of one of these gangs. And so he's basically out there having to prove his innocence, as everybody's kind of at each other's throats, trying to bring him to justice. He ends up getting away with the help of Ronan, and Ronan is who we find out is the young lady who was at the very beginning in issue 1, who had lost her kid. So she's there trying to help him as they go into the underground, and they traverse different areas of the mall to get to the security room, where they find a videotape that proves Andre's innocence. And we also see who it was that's been doing these crimes. And that's pretty much what we got through the first couple issues. Issue number 3, we've seen that they were trying to get back into the main part of the mall to get this videotape so Andre could prove his innocence, basically to everybody in the mall, and hopefully settle down this kind of war that's been brewing. And then they end up going through the underground and getting caught up with this faction of people who kind of rule the underground, the underground area of the mall. And this is a faction of people that Ronan herself was actually part of, and it seems like she's kind of been ostracized from. And so they end up getting the tape confiscated, and they have to basically, they have one choice. They can either die, or they can run through this thing that they call the gauntlet, which is basically just like a long corridor where there is a bunch of different booby traps and things set up. And at the very end, there is a big, what they call the monster, and that's what we get through the first 3 issues. And now issue number 4 basically opens up there, where they are at the very end of the gauntlet and end up getting past the beast with the help of some other people. And pretty much in issue number 3, we getting a lot more story about Andre and his past, as well as Ronan and her past, and how they all kind of interconnect. The videotape is now gone that proves Andre's innocence, and we get a more in-depth look at exactly who it is that set him up and why. Now, it turns out that Andre's brother is not quite who he thinks, and we learn a little bit more about that, as does seem to be his brother that is here kind of backstabbing everybody in some sort of a power move to take control of the mall. And guys, I've got to tell you, issue number 4 of the mall, I've really liked the mall series so far. Issue 1, 2, and 3 was really good, and I think issue number 4 here is definitely a great addition to this book. And I'm guessing that there's probably going to be one more issue by the time this first arc of this series is tied up. And guys, I'm telling you, I really liked this book here as well. And I'll go ahead and show you just some of like the art that you can expect when you're reading this book. Like here's you can see some of the different factions going to battle here. Again, really great work. I like the work how sometimes it's not too highly detailed. It's really well colored. It really kind of helps set the tone for this post-apocalyptic tale that we're getting in Mall. Again, guys, I think both of these books are really good. Plot issue number 3, once again, great book that's going to really add on to this plot series. And Mall issue number 4, definitely a great 4th issue to add in to this series of Mall. But let me know down in the comments below, do you plan on buying Mall? Do you plan on buying the plot? If not, have you read them? And guys, let's just talk about this down in the comments below. Again, guys, I did get these advanced copies, so you probably haven't had a chance to read them yet, but I think there's some titles that if you've been reading these, you definitely want to keep up on reading them. And again, I want to say a big shout out once again to Michael Morecki, who did send me out some PDF copies to bring you guys this review of these books that will be hitting your shelves this Wednesday at your local comic book shop. Actually, he sent me another one from Archie Comics that's going to be Vampironica that I plan on doing a review of probably later this week, if not by the end of the weekend, for a book that will be coming out next week at your local comic book shop. That's all I have for this video today, guys. Thank you all so much for tuning into the Second Street Marvel. If you haven't already, please make sure you're subscribed, click the little bell and all of that good stuff. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you don't like it, feel free to give it a thumbs down. It's all good. I don't take it personal. But most of all, make sure you share it with a friend and invite them to come hang out with us here on the Second Street Marvel. You all have a very good day. Have a great rest of your week. Go out and support your local comic book shop. Read some great comics, and let's talk about them down in the comments below. Later.